Of course, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. And like you said, I'm on the East Coast. I'm actually in Boston, but the same time zone as New York. I didn't send you a bio, which is probably why you're like, hey, go ahead and introduce yourself. Because I got a new job and I was like, I don't know what to say. But right now I work at a company called Entire. Um, and this is a company that's been created by the former CEO of GitHub, and he's kind of trying to remake GitHub, but for AI agents to make the experience a bit better. So I'm a principal developer advocate there. I just started like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Prior to that, I worked at Block, which is how I met Chris. And I was a tech lead for open source developer relations on an AI agent called Goose. So today I'm probably going to talk to you guys a lot about like MCP and AI agents. And I think to me, it's an exciting conversation. So I hope you guys like it too. If you guys have thoughts and questions, feel free to put them in the chat because I like interacting with people. Okay, I hope that was good enough for you guys. All right. And I hope you guys, what screen can you guys see? Does it say in loving memory of prompt engineering? Okay, cool. I'm
Yep.
really bad at screen sharing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, and if you guys see me look to the right, I'm looking at my notes. And let me move this one password stuff. All right, cool. So, uh let me just dive in. I'm just gonna zoom this in for myself a little bit. All right, cool. So, today we're going to pay our respects to a concept of prompt engineering. As you can see, it says in loving memory of prompt engineering from 2021 to 2026. So we're gathered here today to remember our dear hero, prompt engineering, a technique that carried us through a lot of the early days of AI when models really were not that great. Like GPT-3, I remember was very unpredictable. Context windows were really, really tiny. And the only way you would be able to survive if you were able to word things just right. You had to tweak phrasing, you had to add things like be concise, and you had to add things like think step by step. And after when it did work, it felt like ma magic. But that type of world doesn't really exist anymore. We're not just prompting models anymore. We're collaborating with agents, and we're asking them to basically take action on our behalf. We want them to modify systems, we want them to write code, and we want them to really execute on our behalf. And the idea that you can write a perfect prompt, once send it off, and it will just do what it needs to do, didn't really survive that current transition. So in its place, we have two successors. We have context engineering and we have intent engineering. And before you meet them, I'll introduce myself. I think I just did to you guys, so I'm not sure how much I will say here. But like I told you guys earlier, I'm a principal developer advocate at a company called Entire. Um, I worked at Block before that. Oh, and before that, I worked at GitHub, focused on GitHub Copilot back in 2021. So I've really been living in this world of AI assisted coding since 2021, and I've seen the shift from like prompting copilots to now interacting with agents. So let's meet our first successor, which is context engineering. Context engineering is really how we give agents the information they need to understand what we're asking. Instead of stuffing everything into a single prompt, we externalize it, right? We're using things like MCP servers, structured documentation, shared context files like agents.md, and and we move it from we're moving from saying every single thing perfectly in one shot to saying, okay, let's give the agent a system that it can really pull from. And this works, right? It makes agents a little bit more capable, more grounded, more useful, but it does have a bit of a weakness, right? If you give an agent too much context, the agent doesn't become smarter, it becomes overwhelmed, it starts to lose signal, and this is what people refer to as context rot. To me, I think of it this way, right? If I read a 40-page long research paper, I will probably, once I get to the end, not remember too many details from the beginning or parts of the middle might be um a little like fuzzy to me. So I think of it the similar way with AI agents. So, what did we do to really navigate this issue of context raw? We built systems to manage it. We compacted context windows. Like I know a lot of AI agents have the ability for you to say, okay, let's compact a session and make it a little bit smaller. We introduced a lot of patterns like the Ralph Wiggum loop, Gastown, beads for memory. We broke work into subagents, and all of this is us trying to fix one core problem, ambiguity. But at some point, you've given the agent everything, all the documentation, all the context, all the tools, and it still ends up doing the wrong thing. Not because it doesn't have enough information, but because it misunderstood what we're trying to do. So we're missing something deeper, and to me, that's intent. So our second successor, that's a little bit of a tongue twister for me. Our second successor that we're going to meet is intent engineering. This is a newer one because I feel like everyone has heard about context engineering by now. So intent engineering is basically making sure the agent understands what you said and actually what you want before it runs off and does it. Not just like, okay, and Rizel said this so I'm gonna do this. It's really understands like what you actually meant, because oftentimes what I said and what I meant is not the same thing. So here's like a simple example. Sometimes I've told the agent, this has happened to me many times on a live stream and it's super embarrassing. And I'll just be like, oh yeah, delete that or delete this, thinking that the agent knows what I'm talking about. And it's like, absolutely, I'll delete the entire project, RM-RF. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so annoying. Technically, it followed my instructions, but it didn't really understand intent. And this is why when you guys, I don't know if you guys have seen whenever people demo like an AI agent booking a flight, I don't know why companies choose that, but I think a lot of times people are like, mm-mm, I wouldn't do that because I don't know, I don't trust the agent enough to understand my intent. Because who will really trust the agent right now that struggles with understanding intent with like hundreds of dollars? Not me. So, because there's this gap between instruction and intent, now here's what I think is really the interesting part. For me, I think a lot of people are talking about intent engineering. Like I hear a lot of people write, or read a lot of people writing blog posts about it and stuff like that. But I'm not really seeing as much people do it. And I think that some people may not really know how, like how to act, like they're like talking about it in theory. So, um, I did want to talk about the fact that I think MCP, Model Context Protocol, already has a lot of these primitives that allow us to do intent engineering. I think a lot of times when we talk about MCP, everyone's just talking about MCP servers, which are the things that can help give an AI agent more context. But MCP actually gives us many mechanisms. It's like an entire full spec for clarifying intent, confirming intent, and refining intent before execution. So we're going to walk through that. So first, in terms of clarifying intent, right now, text alone is really easy to interpret, as you guys saw with that example that I gave you of like me saying delete this and it deletes the whole project. So instead of asking the agent to perfectly understand the sentence, what if we gave it something that we could both see and interact with? And that's where something called MCP apps comes in. This is not the same thing as MCP servers. The name is a little confusing, but it's called MCP apps. They're um, a where was I? Where was I? MCP apps are allow basically MCP servers to render user interfaces directly inside of your agent experience. And I'm going to show you guys a demo of that soon. So instead of you relying on only text, you can really click, select, adjust, interact with forms and stuff like that. And the interaction then changes from like, oh, did the agent understand what you said? So, okay, now I know we're aligned on this. And to me, that's like a level of clarification. So I'm going to demo this. I'll have to stop sharing and then reshare again. So you guys can see what I'm talking about. Because you can be like, all right, she's talking, but what is she saying? I think I will have to reveal that I have a messy desktop. So don't judge me too hard. All right. So let me make sure. Right
S-
now,
s-
I'm in an AI agent
So,
called, yes.
the MCP apps is the same as a MCP UI, or it's a
It is. So that's a good, very good question. I'm glad you asked. So MCP UI was like more experimental. People were worried in terms of what's it called? Security and stuff like that with it. And so they went back to the drawing board. They've put in like better standards, and now it's officially part of the MCP spec. Like it's officially an extension of it, and they've renamed it to MCP Apps.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Cool, no problem. So we're gonna see an example of this, and I'm gonna tell it this is a extension. This is Goose that we're inside of, and we're gonna use an MCP app that helps you to find food. So I'm gonna say,
Do you mind taking 1, 2 minutes explaining what Goose is
okay,
for those who don't know
yes.
the application?
Yeah, throughout
Thank
this
you.
talk, I'm probably going to show many different AI agents as like for different examples. But this particular AI agent, if you haven't used it, it's an open source local AI agent is actually the first AI, like not first AI agent, but first MCP client. It doesn't get as much popularity, but it's the first. And it can do a lot of different things in it. Like you can schedule tasks. There's something called recipes where there's like these automated tasks that you can do over and over again. I really find the recipe like feature much better than some of the other AI agents. Um, what else about it? It was made by Block, and yeah, I spent a year or more than a year like kind of working on this tooling. But and it's also the reference implementation for MCP. So anytime there's something new or crazy that comes out in MCP, Goose probably has it for you to experiment and try out. Okay, so the demo I'm going to do, I'm just going to say like, hey, I'm doing a talk right now, and I'm super hungry. I'm in the MA area, can you help me find some options for dinner? And let's see. Hopefully it doesn't embarrass me. Okay, here we go. So what we see that pulled up for me is not just plain text, but we see like this is called the MCP app where it has like things that I can actually interact with. So I'm just gonna pick, I don't even know, Soul of India. What is that? So it directly knows that I want to view the menu for Soul of India and a little bit buggy, so I guess it struggled to find it first, but it found some of the food here. And let's say I want what looks good. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can have some dal. Yeah, sure. I'll just grab that and I can say like, oh, I want it mild or really spicy, crazy hot. Yeah, I want that. And add it to my cart. And then I can go ahead and proceed to check out this way. And it opened up this is like real. It opened up uh what's it called? A browser tab, and it shows me like, oh, you can review and pay. And I don't know if anyone wants to give me their debit card so I can order. Just kidding. But to go back to the slide deck, let me see there's stuff in the chat. Okay. Oh, that's actually not the link for Goose. It is. They changed it recently. I mean, that's a different product, but they did change the link for Goose pretty recently, and it is. Where's my Zoom? It's this. All right. So you can install it from there if you were interested. Now going back to the slides. I hope yeah, you guys thought that was cute, cool, you know. Back to my slides. Alrighty. So now that we were able to clarify intent with MCP apps, because we weren't just using text, we were able to directly click on like, this is what I want, and it knows for sure what's going on. We still need to confirm it, right? Because sometimes the system is missing something critical. Maybe doesn't fully know what you want. And a lot of times AI agents just go ahead and guess. They're like, I don't know what Rizel was really saying, but I'm gonna assume they were saying this because it wants to be really helpful. But instead of guessing, it should just really ask. It should come back and confirm what you got. This is what you wanted. And this is where something called MCP elicitation comes in. MCP elicitation allows an agent or an MCP server to pause execution and request structured input from the user. So instead of the agent really hallucinating or trying to be overly helpful and missing details, it explicitly fills the gap. And that's where I'm considering your agent being able to do some level of intense confirmation. So we're going to do another demo of that. Can you guys see Claude Code here? Or Claude Desktop, actually, this is what that is. Okay. I don't see anyone saying they don't see it. Okay, yes, thank you. Awesome. So yeah, I am using Claude's desktop app and I just like it better than the terminal, but they have Claude Code in here as well. So what I'm going to do, and I hope that this does what I want it to do. So I actually made my slides. I think it's obvious. I used AI to make them, and I used a skill called front end slides to really create them. I wrote the whole talk track myself, and I just gave it to my AI agent, and I was like, make this into slides for me. I don't have the patience to make slides anymore or to make them cute. So what is going to happen, I hope, if Claude follows my plan, is what happened earlier, where I gave it my talk and then it asked for confirmation. It's like, well, I see your, let's press enter while I'm talking. It's like, I see your talk track, but I want to confirm with you on like a couple of things. Like, is this going to be like a professional talk, et cetera, et cetera. If it doesn't do that, I'll try again with a slightly different prompt. Here it is. There we go. This is an example of MCP elicitation where it didn't move on yet. It was going to generate my slides for me, but then it was like, wait a minute, what is this presentation for? Is it a conference talk or is it like teaching tutorial, et cetera, et cetera? So I could say it's a conference talk. Maybe I want about 10 to 20 slides and I want to be able to like edit the text directly in browser. And I want it to feel, I don't know, impressive and confident. And now it can go on and actually generate the slides rather. I don't want it to actually go. I'm going to stop it. Or maybe it won't. But um, just so you guys can see, instead of just assuming, oh, Rizel's doing this talk for maybe, I don't know, a school or something like that, or she wants 30 slides and then I have to go back and say, change that. It's asked me for what I'm intending for it in the beginning. Okay, back to my slides. I don't know if you guys have seen all this stuff already and you're like, yeah, right, who cares? The last thing I want to talk to you about is MCP. Oh, also, is there any questions? Was anyone like, I've never heard of the front end slide skill, or you lost me at some type of part? I never heard of Claude Code.
How do you make it question you with the MCP UI?
Ah, gotcha. So what I showed was not MCP UI, it's MCP elicitation. And it's kind of I don't think you can trigger it yourself. I think for Claude Code, they do it really well where it's really built into that agent where you ask it a question and anytime it's a little uncertain, it'll ask you for clarification. I know for a Goose, you have to literally build an MCP server that supports MCP elicitation. And when someone says a certain trigger word, then it would pop up. So not all agents are using it well or using it the right way, but Claude Code, I want it to stop, it's bothering me. But Claude Code, I think, has it built in pretty well. Where like I can, I don't know, I can ask something else, maybe make it really vague, and then it might pop up and ask you for clarification.
Cool, thank
And
you.
it doesn't, I haven't seen it work. Have I in the browser? I haven't seen it work in the browser, but maybe it does. I don't want to give them this information. Okay, no problem. Thanks for asking. Okay, the next thing, I hope it's not still running because I can hear my computer taking off. The next thing I want to talk about, let me make sure I didn't miss anything, is interpreting intent with something called MCP sampling. So even after we got the clarification and the confirmation, there are still moments where things are ambiguous. And um, the system has basically enough information, but there are multiple ways to still interpret it. And this is where something called MCP sampling really shows up. Sampling allows an MCP server to call an LLM to explore possible interpretations or next step. So instead of committing immediately, the system can generate options, compare them, decide how to proceed. And I think of this as more like an intent interpretation, and it gives the system a chance to say, what might the user actually mean here? So the example we want to give isn't the best one of like interpreting intent, but it's just showing you how MCP sampling works in general. So there's this MCP server that my past coworker made called Council of Nine, and we're going to just see the LLM, or yeah, we're going to see how an MCP server can basically use an LLM to explore possibilities. So your agent has an LLM, but then baked inside with MCP sampling, baked inside of that MCP server is an additional LLM that it can interact with. So I can say, I'm gonna make sure this MCP server is on. Yes, it is. And then I can say, I'm going to ask it a really dumb question. I'm going to say, which is better, tabs or spaces? And what this particular MCP server does is it uses the LLM to do debates, I would say, right? So it has like 9 different personalities or opinions that it'll take on. So like one will be like the devil's advocate, one will be like the optimist, et cetera, et cetera. And whatever question you ask it, it'll bring different opinions to the council, and then the council will go ahead and like vote on it itself. So it almost, to me, it feels like, oh, my MCP server kind of has a mind of its own. I know it's not really, but has a mind of its own, and it'll debate without me being in there. So even if we expand this, and I said like in programming, which is better. So we'll wait for it to go. It takes a bit of time. I wonder if I have one that I did in the past. Yes, I do. Shout out to me. Just in case this takes too long. I just don't have any patience. But all right, here we go. Right. So it did a debate here, and then in the results, we can see it's not opening and collapsing. Usually you will see that the council will be thinking like one will say one thing and one will say another. Let's see if I can see it here. I think it's a little bit of a bug. But anyways, usually inside of this opening tab, it will say like, hey, the visionary thinks tabs, this person thinks this. And then after that, they'll all have votes. And so we found in the end, or the council returns to me in the end, that like it's team tabs, the visionary gave its reasoning for why, and other personalities voted on it. And this one, come on, I want you to go. Here we go. The output's right here. Thank you. So like you'll see the pragmatist, it'll say its reason is like spaces are practical, et cetera, et cetera. The visionary also shows spaces here. The optimist said, I love this debate, blah, blah, blah. So they show like it's thinking behind the scenes, and then they all vote and say why they voted. And then here's the winner and why they chose that one. Okay. But and I couldn't find a good enough example of MCP sampling where interpreting intent actually happens. Obviously this is not really interpreting intent, it's just me asking a question, but I just wanted to show you guys it so you can see like the possibility of it to be able to do that. All right, back to my slides. Exit out here. Okay, so we got that. So when you put this all together, we're able to clarify intent, you're able to confirm intent, and you're able to really interpret intent. And MCP gives us all three of this. These intent engineering to me isn't some future concept, because when I hear people do talks about it or write blog posts about it, it's like, oh, one day we'll do this, or this is something that can possibly happen, or it's just a theory. You can really start implementing this and doing this today. There's one other thing I do want to bring up, and this is or where I want to shift to, and this is around code review, because I think this is where things start to break down. So in this era, in this agentic era, we've been able to really code so much faster, and it's been so like amazing that we can like code at this speed. However, it's also not amazing for people like maintainers. A lot of open source maintainers, I don't know if you all are on social media or you're plugged in with open source as much as I am, but a lot of them had said, like, we're going closed source, or we're not accepting PRs from certain contributors, or we just don't want any agentic PRs anymore because they're really overwhelmed with the types of like the size of the PRs that are coming in. Like in the past, they'd be like, oh, you changed a few files, and now it's like you changed 97 files, and they're like, I cannot do this anymore. It's not sustainable. So that's where things kind of break. And basically, there's some people, like I said, they're closing their doors. Some people have skimmed and just said, all right, looks good to me. But that's really not them really understanding what's going on. Traditional code review was built for human pace of development, but we need something different, right? And this is where I think something called intent review comes in. And instead of just reviewing the code, we review what the agent was trying to do, what decisions it was trying to make along the way, what changed between steps, and where things go off track. And some systems, like the company I joined, Entire, they're starting to build that out. They're starting to capture things like the transcripts, the prompts, the code changes, the execution, and the steps. So instead of asking, does this code look right? You can ask, like, does this intent actually make sense? And to me, that's a more scalable way of reviewing in an AI agent driven world. I'll show you guys a quick, this is not really a good demo of like intent review or anything because it's something we're still building. But I'll show you how we're at least capturing a lot of or a visual of how we're capturing like prompts and stuff like that. So we're using something called checkpoints. And that's really basically anytime you make a commit, it grabs whatever prompts and whatever like transcript you just did and whatever thinking that the AI agent had, and we're going to build up upon that. So if we can look at like, let me see here. Yeah, if we can look at some commits I did in this particular repo, I was just like making like a fun project for myself, but I can really go back here, and once it loads, I can see like the transcript that I had, and like how I was going back and forth and talking with my agent and the reasoning that it came around to. So their plan is to eventually continue to build this out and make like this is just a primitive, like this is just us capturing like those basic things for now, but our plan is to basically build this out and allow it to be easier to review PRs, where we can say here's what the user was intending to happen and here's what the AI agent executed, and you'll be able to say like, does this actually match, what's the risk here, and get a couple of like percentages that can make you feel a little bit more confident about like merging a PR. And basically this is near the end or the last slide. So I'll end by saying if prompt engineering was about saying the right thing and context engineering was about giving enough information, then intent engineering is really about making sure the system actually understands you. We're no longer just communicating with machines, we're collaborating with systems that will act on our behalf. Then when you have something acting on your behalf, you really can't have it saying, I don't know what this person meant. Like understanding intent is not a nice to have. It's truly has to become part of our interface. So today we say goodbye to prompt engineering as the hero, but not because it failed us, because it got us to where we are now, and now we need something better to carry us forward. And yep, my name is Rizel Scarlett. My handle is Black Girl Bites. If you wanted to connect with me on Twitter or any social media, really, and then on LinkedIn, it's just Rizel Scarlett. I'm open to questions or thoughts or anything that you guys have.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. That was really nice. Do we have any questions, folks?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah,
So
go
the
ahead.
last slide is about detecting intent between the user uh, conversation and the code generated by AI. So are we talking about the model capability to follow the instruction, or we are talking about the ambiguity of the communication of the conversations?
Wait,
Because,
can
for
you
example,
expand
when
on
you
that more?
say,
A little
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
talked over you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because I wonder because like for every model we need to have like the following instruction training in which you have a prompt and then the model follow exactly like that. And if it has some drift, that one it's because of the model problem. But with your tool, you detect the drift inside the intent, and I'm not sure whether when you have the issue, do you distribute into the intent clarification or you distribute the error into the capability of the model?
That's a good question. I don't even know if I know the answer to that since I'm new to this company. But the way I understood it was like, it'll show you the path that it took to get there. It might not like I don't know if it's gonna be like, oh, this model uh misunderstood or didn't like is wrong or needs improvement or something like that. But I know it will be like, okay, here's the reason, like here's what you asked, and here's the reason why it ended up generating this code. And then you can rewind like almost with like how you would with like a git commit, and you can like go back or rewind to a certain um like
Yeah, okay.
checkpoint or area. Does that help? Let me see if I can find a better example. Let me see. CD. Give me a second. Do you want to follow up or say
No,
like
no, no, I
no?
think it's okay. I just curious about the mechanism with the tone that when we have the errors, how do we solve that one? Is that my capability
Hmm.
to explain to the model, or it's just like the model is suck, I need to switch the model or something like that?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it's as focused on the model's capability itself with this particular tool.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, just curious. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking. Anybody have more questions or anything? I'm trying to see if I can show a better example of the tool I was talking about, but I don't know. I'm like searching right now. No questions. No. It's okay if not.
Can I
Right,
just ask
right.
if we're able to see a replay? I happen to be a little bit late.
Oh, I
So
think so.
Yeah. Hi, Ryan. Yeah,
Hey, Chris.
I'm going to upload the recording. So yeah, there is going to be yeah.
And
Good
and
to
let
see
me
you.
and let me confess, I have no questions because it was way over my head, and that's why I'm here to learn. And I need to see the replay to be able to have a chance. But thank you very much. It was super impressive. Super impressive.
Okay, cool. Yeah, anyone who was like, I didn't get it. I didn't know what you did. Feel free to tell me. I'm like super embedded into like the MCP world, so some of it like to me, I'm like everybody knows this, but that's not true. Do you see
That's
the
not
video?
that's definitely not true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
that's
that, that,
absolutely
that,
not
that, that,
true. I don't know about that. Yeah.
that's probably part of the question I had for you and for everyone else is basically my personal. I could be totally wrong, but my personal experience is that there are so much content everywhere from people that are actually not doing really much, even in production, right? So it's very hard if you are not fully immersed in that space, probably to understand what is actually happening in the industry right now. I know, for example, you were fully focused on projects like Goose, and that basically it's kind of it's at the frontier of this space. So I know you folks have been doing a lot with this. Um, Also, I would
Yeah.
like to ask if the recent layoff at Block somehow is connected with all that you also have been doing or not. So that's you are more than welcome to not answer that question. But it's to us is or at least to me there are so many things happening and too much content and sometimes it's hard to process wherever is real or it's just marketing, right? So the question would be from your experience, personal experience, just working on kind of all these projects, or even talking to people at conferences. What's your impression in terms of the adoption of all these technologies in the daily work in production, right? So that would be the
Yeah.
question.
That's a good question. I will say, so I have a lot of random thoughts that came into my head. First off, you're right. Like not everybody's as embedded. Even my husband, he's a software engineer, and sometimes I'm like, didn't I talk with you about this before? He's like, apparently people are using AI agents to run while they sleep. He's like, who's doing that? I'm like, I am. Like, where have you been? But so yeah, I agree with that. And then in terms of um like what to focus on, I definitely probably part of the problem where I'm like producing a lot of content, and I think I had a bit of like a not like a negative disagreement, but a little disagreement with my manager where in her opinion she's like, I need to stay up, like my past manager, I need to stay up to date on every single new thing that comes out. So if Gas Towns comes out, beads, whatever. But I find that sometimes these things come out and then after a while, they're not that important anymore because
Mm,
they were trying to solve a specific problem at a specific time, but then the AI agents got better and we no longer need it anymore. What I do see it helpful for is like people just understanding the fundamentals before we get to like, oh, like now agents work without all of these problems of like context rot and stuff like that. I think it's still helpful to understand, like just read, but you don't necessarily have to implement it. Of like, oh, here's why this problem was happening in the past. I kind of think of it as like when you go to college, they make you learn like assembly language and stuff like that. You don't need that. You're never going to really use that, but it does give you a little bit more context of what's happening behind the scenes and then makes you be a better developer, or in this case, makes you be able to prompt AI agents a little bit better. So to me, I'm like, only use it if you get a chance to experiment and you think it's helpful. And I think a lot of people right now, they don't really know the answers. There's no answers. They're just like, I have a really big code base and I want to figure out how to make my AI agent successful, like successfully like edit code and stuff like that. So they're like, oh, I created this new way of doing things and this is the way everyone should do it, but it's not necessarily that. I hope that answered. Oh, and then in terms of the layoffs at Block, I for like why I moved to Entire. Is that why you asked? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Oh,
So no, no. Sorry. I didn't want to make kind of a personal question. It was more about because you were working in the kind of in the frontier of the AI innovation inside the
yeah.
company. In the news, what we see is what we saw is actually okay. So Block is laying off 4,000 people just because the AI automation, right? So it's basically say, okay, my question is there any connection or was something different or something like that, right? Because what is happening in terms of companies investing in kind of all this automation and kind of in the AI new era, it's at some point the question is, okay, so how is actually impacting in 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 the shop from developers and everyone involved in those organizations. So and because you were inside of one of them, so that's basically what's the question.
Oh, wait, so just making sure, are you saying like did we automate ourselves out of a job? Right? That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah.
Well, okay, so I didn't get laid off. I ended up getting to stay, but I just didn't want to stay
Yeah,
because I was like I don't have any team members anymore. But I think I hate to say this. I think it was a cop out of saying that like we now that we have AI, we're good to go. We don't need all these people in there because from what I saw happening, I think it was like a little bit of like an impulsive move. They got rid of a lot of the people that knew how to use AI agents really well. And then they're like, all right, I just want everybody in the company to use AI agents. And the people that were left back, like some of the people that were left back were really confused on like what to do and why to do it. I think that the overall impact, a lot of companies may start using that as a excuse. I think it's just an excuse. And I think we are now in a stage where maybe your job won't be as long term and you have to be ready to jump to something else. But I don't really feel like AI really is automating ourselves out of a job because I found that when everybody left, 40% of the company, then now everyone started scrambling. What to do? Why isn't this working? I'm like, well, what happened to our AI agents that were going to do all of it? Yeah.
yeah. Cool, awesome. Does anyone would like to share any experience in terms of what you folks are actually doing right now, or where in this journey are you at the moment? Feel free to do it now. Okay.
I did see a question I think I skipped. Someone said, do you see review process for agentic PR becoming more complex because the reviewer is no longer reviewing just the final output, but the full interaction with the agent? Or does the entire product somehow summarize the agent interaction? It summarizes it. I didn't prep my demo enough to show you guys that it summarizes it. So I just showed you the full thing, but it's not just going to be like, oh, here's the transcript. It'll do like a good summary for people to be able to review that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hi, Ross. Do you have
Hey there.
any?
Hey, I just want to say thanks so much, Rizel, for the talk. I am familiar with a lot of AI and agentic tools. I wasn't familiar with. I hadn't really got the concept of MCP UIs and apps. I hadn't really thought about that, about what was happening in these agentic systems when I was receiving those sorts of interactions. So that's really great for me to learn about, and I'll learn a little bit more. I'm curious to hear, I guess, your knowledge across the work that you do engaging with people from lots of different countries, and I guess to hear from this group who I think are predominantly from New Zealand, what the uptake is like, because I'm seeing amongst my clients a huge range of adoption. I mostly work with small teams, and what I'm seeing is small teams are doing a fair amount of exploration in agentic AI, AI, I would say AI assisted coding, and they're having the most freedom to do so. What I'm hearing from people in larger companies and corporates is they're sort of they're not able to go as deep, and maybe they're not being led by people who really understand it very much. So there's a bit of inertia there. So I'm curious to hear from you, Rizel, as to what you're seeing globally, where people are going deepest, what the difference is between small companies, large companies, people who go deep and people who are still standing back, and from the group really as to what our experiences in New Zealand of how much of where we're at in terms of adoption.
Oh, I'm curious to hear about everybody else's too. So I'll try to keep mine short. I don't know if it's really the difference of small and big because Block was a huge company and my manager was directly responsible for the entire company adopting AI. And she did a really good job. They just happened to get rid of the people that actually adopted it. But I think it's more about like what you said, the leader, the person that's making sure they have the time to do that because she made sure it was embedded. She made sure everybody was having workshops constantly, stuff like that, where she wants like it was encouraged to use it. She made the tools available. She made it part of our benefits package because a lot of times you had to like request, can I be able to use Codex or whatever? And she's like, all of the tools are available to you, even though we make Goose, you can use whatever. And at this smaller company, it does seem like people are using AI a lot, but it's not. I almost feel I think they might be even a little bit more behind than we were at Block, so I don't know. But yeah, curious at what other people's experience has been.
I'll share a little bit to give you an appreciation of what's happening in New Zealand. And I work traditionally in sales and marketing, a little bit of product. So I'm not tech, but I want to be AI tech capable. So I'm doing training. But I went through about 70 meetings with CIOs of New Zealand's largest organizations, from ministries to private entities. And this is in 2024 through to early 2025. And at that stage, one of the more I don't want to drop anyone in it, but the CIO thought he was training Copilot, and I told him he wasn't training Copilot. He was using a black box solution and to show me what he was doing. And even with my really shit basic prompting back then, I rewrote his prompt and he got an answer that excited him. And his response was, I work from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. I haven't got time to go on the 3-hour trainings that they asked me to go on. You showed me more in 5 seconds than anyone has shown me in the last, and I'm responsible for writing the budget and the strategy for AI to be delivered from 1st of April 2025 onwards. And I know that they still have not had the chance because they were making thousands of people redundant at the time, and he was in meetings looking after people and looking after that process. Literally nothing else could be done. So those in New Zealand will sort of probably put two and two together, where that person might have worked. And I see it now. Like I went to the Anthropic event recently, which is run by some guys here who become Anthropic ambassadors. And the room was 2/3 full of developers, who I imagine this room is full of, who are like you, maybe not the same level because I think you're on a next level, but there'll be some in the room that are. But most people were using Claude Code because it was Anthropic, and we're doing all sorts of stuff that was just mind blowing that used to take months to do manually, you know. And I asked because it was meant to be for beginners, and I said, "Does anyone else in the room feel like this is way over their head?" And no one said a thing. But in the break, about a third of the room came up to me quietly and said, "Thanks for asking," because I'm like you. So I think that across the board, my final statement is the old thing, software will eat the world. I think at the moment, the future is developers who are skilled in AI are going to eat the world. And everyone else, look out because you're the one who's an agent's going to replace your job, especially if it's a knowledge worker admin thing. Marketing, see you later. Sales, probably see you later. In fact, most people probably can't wait for sales to go and be replaced by an agent that doesn't tell them lies or bullshit, right? But I'll stop there because otherwise I say too much. But there's New Zealand, I think, in a nutshell.
I am my personal experience is that during the recent probably 1-2 months. So my personal experience is since January I have a lot more free time, and then so that was the reason I basically was also laid off in January. So that's meant that I start to have more time and to read, learn, and more about this, which is something that I actually didn't really have much dedication in the past 2 years. So it's basically, yeah, I'm Ryan. You say I'm probably in the same boat like you said. Uh, and the more I read, the more I try to learn about this. I'm kind of also connecting with people that to me are kind of very strong references in the industry. And I'm talking, I don't know, the guys who 20 years ago proposed the kind of this DevOps movement. So all these people somehow they moved to trying to understand what is happening with this new AI wave right now, and the kind of the agreement with all of them is that nobody have an answer. No many people know what is actually happening. Nobody have an answer for anything, right? So we are in a full status of uncertainty with many things, and also there is a lot of marketing everywhere, right? So which is very complex in terms of processing what is actually happening, what and what's actually the implementation of in real life, all those things. So we know that this is coming. This is somehow is evolving, and but we are still in the super early stage, and that feeling of not understanding what is happening, so or feeling behind what is actually happening in the frontier. So I think that is common for I don't know, for almost everyone in the community right now. So no matter where, if you are in New Zealand, in South America, Asia, or San Francisco, right? So it's a I think that this is a global thing right now. So I don't know. That's my personal uh, uh, point of view, which I don't know could be totally wrong, but that's basically what I see right now in terms of uh, my exposure to people who are actually building many of those technologies because my community involvement. So and yeah, so it's still in a very early stage for many people, and yeah, I think that taking the time to be patient and learn what is coming, so it's could be a good strategy for those who really want to keep in the same in this industry for more time. So it's awesome.
100% agree. Wait, could I show like really fast? Because the part for entire was a little bit confusing. Can I show it for like 5 seconds? I know we're at 9 o'clock. Or
Yeah, sure.
9 o'clock my time. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I don't know if this is actually better. I thought it might look hard to understand since it's on the CLI and the product's really early, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, will we just be reading the transcript?" Like this, I basically like took a commit that I had and I was like, "Okay, I ran a specific command that says entire explain and it tells me like, oh, the particular intent of this person was to build a handwriting recognition app. Here's the outcome. First, it was able to do this. Here's a friction point that I hit. Like I would like the tool that I tried to use when was unavailable in the browser, and then a couple of other like issues I had. So like it'll do more like a summary of learnings, and if I keep scrolling, I can see a transcript if I want to. And the idea is eventually to make this like more visual, but right now it's just like it's really early stage, so it's just printed out. That's it.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well, I think that we are already on time. So if there are no more questions, uh, Yeah, I really want to thanks everyone again for sharing your time with us today. Next session is in 2 weeks again. We have the Discord channel if you want to keep the conversation there, any question, or if you have any suggestion in terms of topic, in terms of speakers that we can invite. So yeah, feel free to reach out. So the idea is that, yeah, we can make this content in a collaborative way. So I'm happy to kind of support as much as I can, but would be very nice to have more collaboration as well. So feel free to, yeah. Thank you, Rizel, for your time. So yeah, appreciate really.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Rizel.
Thank you. Bye,
Awesome.
guys.
See you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.